Thank you all very, very much, and I look forward to many more occasions to work together. There's something that we can't stop, and that is mother or father time. So if mother or father time has moved faster than we had hoped. So in my presentation, I'm going to kind of scrunch it a little bit. So we'll have time for Anthony Williams, but more than that is we have the privilege of being here with one of San Francisco's top public defenders. And he's a public defender that works around accountability for police. But for my presentation in AfroSolo, I want to say that what we're doing here tonight is for informational purposes. I'm not a lawyer. And even though a lawyer may be speaking, he's not your lawyer. So if you have legal issues, it's important to speak to someone on your behalf. As I mentioned earlier, over the years, we've seen a number of people get killed by police for various reasons. So what can an individual do to possibly prevent that? I also mentioned that a police officer told me that they want to go home, and we want to go home. So we want to do anything that might upset the apple cart and allow a police officer to become the judge, juror, and executioner in 15 seconds. Now, some things I might say you may disagree with. And as someone who works with the Accountability Department of Police, our attorney may have some things to say about also. But my wish is, what can you do to go home? As a lawyer once told me, I can help you if you're in jail. I might be able to help you if you're in the hospital, but there ain't nothing I can do for you if you're in a morgue. So anything that you can do to prevent that helps everyone. Because when one person is killed, it affects us all. This week you may have heard about the woman who was killed by police who thought that she might throw some hot water on him. Now, that's one case that was prosecuted, and he was found guilty. We're not sure what's going to happen, but that's unusual. You know, we hear these cases where there are convictions, but usually they get away because they were afraid or they were scared. So my thought is you may wind up having to be the person who de-escalates the situation on your own, even when you feel it's not fair, with the goal to survive the incident and the next day, you know, go to accountability officer or go somewhere else. I'm also going to say something about cops. In doing my documentary, or my documenting the situation, I found there's a police website called Police One. Is anyone familiar with Police One? Police One is a website that's pretty much for, by, and about law enforcement officers. And I think they do some good things. One thing they do every year, at least last several years, is they've had a survey of what was going on in police mind. And in the survey in 2024, there were close to 3,000 officers or law enforcement officials around the country, not just San Francisco, around the country. And from the survey, they found, and 98% of them were sworn officers. It's not like people just picking up off the street. 71% of them had sleep disturbances. 50% experienced heightened anger. 50% had problems with family. 39% were affected with depression as a result of the work. And they say the average population is about 18%. 36% had anxiety or panic attacks. 35% had PTSD. 11% had harbored suicidal thoughts, and 16% had thought about thoughts within the last year. So if we're going to be talking about police, why would I say anything about police like this? If we had time, we'd have a discussion about it, but let me share my thought. My thought is, when you stop by police, you don't know who you're going to get. You don't know if you're going to get someone who's worked double shifts, because you probably heard that a lot of police departments are short in terms of police officers. So a lot of them make it up by doing overtime. And actually, the attorney can correct me, but I think there are some police officers, as a result of overtime, make more money than the mayor of San Francisco, or maybe even the police chief, because of overtime. So if you get stopped by someone who's kind of hyped up, hadn't had enough sleep, we best be on our best behavior. Quickly. Yeah, am I with me so far? Okay, so who am I? We talked about that. Thank you for attending the concert. We talked about that. Informational, we talked about that. Well, I started this talked about that. There's a website that lists all the black people who've been killed by police the last century or so, and who, what, when, where. And there are about 900. Some say there are probably a whole lot more, but these are documented, and you can go look them up, and some of them are San Francisco people who've been killed. But a lot of police officers have been killed by people, too. And if you stop by a police officer on the street, which is one of the major contacts between police and public, is car stops, that's one of the most dangerous situations for police. So if they come to you, like one told me, with their hands on the gun, it might not necessarily be you, but it might be these thoughts going through their head about what's happened in the past. So there can be fear on both sides. My focus is primarily on individual encounters. There are major protests. I think that's a different situation. There's the ICE situation, which I hope you'll be able to at least give some people some thoughts on. It's a little different situation also, knowing that the officer wants to go home and I want you to go home. What can you do? My thought is, what can you do before the stop? What can you do during the stop? And what can you possibly do after the stop? And I'm going to rush through these because I won't have a lot of time for the officer, for the attorney. Number one is educate yourself by coming to issues such as this. Number two, if you're black or a person of color, all likelihood you're going to be stopped. So being aware of that and knowing that it's going to happen, and just like some other things, not make it a hyper situation if you can. Possibly speak to some attorneys, before things stop so you feel much more comfortable. There are places like the ACLU that often has Know Your Right kinds of forums. The last several months, they've had some Know Your Right kinds of forums because of what's happening politically that they've had online that I've been fortunate enough to attend. So if you do call or ask the ACLU, they can give you information on just being able to listen in on those. I would like to say it would be great if everyone had a lawyer's card in their pocket. So should something happens, they always say, I get to call my lawyer. Most of us don't know a lawyer. Most of us don't have a lawyer's number. So if we can think proactively and think to get to know a lawyer, to have a lawyer's information in our pocket, should something happen, that could be very nice. Another thing that I've found is just watching a lot of the TV shows and things is that if you're stopped and if you have a warrant against you, you're probably going to jail. I don't think out of hundreds of times I've watched shows and saw that where the person was able to talk themselves out of it. And they usually say, just let the judge take care of it. I have a question that maybe you can answer is, how can one find out if there is a warrant against them? I found out myself kind of in a crazy situation. I was traveling to New Hampshire. I was at a theater conference. was at the hotel, kind of fumbling around with the phone at night, called and asked them to wake me up at 8 o'clock in the morning. So I put the phone down. About 10 minutes later, someone from the front desk called me and asked me what was my emergency. I said, emergency? I don't have an emergency. She said, someone from your room called with an emergency. And I thought, oh, when I hung up the phone, I must have hit, zero or something. So I said, there's no emergency. I'm here alone, no problem. She said, well, police may come check. I waited for about 30 minutes and I went to sleep. About an hour later, I said, it was a police officer, a young guy, dressed out in his bulletproof vest and this Uber, I guess you call him, asking me what the emergency was. And I told him, sorry, sir, there's no emergency. I'm here by myself. And if you know from the professor from Rutgers, when they went to his house and everything was okay, they didn't accept that. They want to go in and be sure that everything is okay. So I kind of nervously said, come on in. And as he was kind of coming in, he asked for my driver's license. I heard him sort of speaking to the phone. Oh, he's okay? He had checked on me during the time that we were talking using my driver's license. Now I wonder, had I had some type of warrant, I would have been in trouble. So I don't know if you can answer that later on, what one can do. Some people say you can go to a public defender. Some people say you can go to the clerk of the court. It's a tricky situation. You don't want to go to a court, and they say, yes, you do have a warrant. Turn around. You don't want that to happen, so maybe there's some things about that. When you're in your car, as I said, car stops are one of the major reasons that police stop people, and that's one of the most dangerous ones. One of the other dangerous one is domestic violence. So those are difficult situations. So if you're in your car, it's really important to be sure that all of your lights are working, because police officers say they're looking for what's out of the ordinary. They're driving around. If they see a blinker's not turned on when someone turns, that's a call for a stop. If there's not a light on your license plate, it can be a call for a stop. Now, a lot of people, it would just be dismissed. But for some of us, it could be a call for a stop. Even in a lot of cars, they have those Christmas trees or dice hanging from the mirror. In a lot of states, that's illegal, because they can say that you're impeding your vision. So you can be stopped for that. Tainted windows. Not tainted, tinted windows. There's a certain degree that they can be tinted. I say practice showing empty, non-threatening hands. Some of us are taught that you put your hand on number 11 and number 2. I say put your hands out the window. Some people say, well, I want to record it. What about recording on my phone? That can be tricky, because I've seen situations where police have thought that those phones were a gun, and they've acted as such. What I recommend people consider is on rearview mirrors, they have those cameras that automatically record what's going on. It might be worth investigating getting one of those cameras that will record. So if you are stopped, you don't have to fidget, you don't have to do anything, it can just be recorded. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. Okay, and we'll come up, we'll talk a little bit later. What officer told me is, Thomas, when you talk to people, tell them that they don't know us, but we don't know them. And that's why we are precautious. I've found, just sort of watching, that there are 4 things that need to happen for an officer to pay attention to you if you wind up calling an officer, and maybe in general situations. Number 1 is they've got to feel safe. If they don't feel safe, we may have a little bit in trouble. I've seen situations where people called police, and somehow or other, I called you, why are you treating me like this? And they wind up getting in an argument with the police officer about why they got there. The officer doesn't feel safe. Number 2, officers, good, bad, right, or wrong, they need to feel like they have some control. They're taught, I think, to take control, good, bad, right, or wrong. They need to be able to assess the situation, and they may be able to do that in 1 second, or it might take a minute, but they need to feel like they can assess the situation. And then if they feel safe, control, being able to assess the situation, they feel comfortable addressing you. But if we skip one of those steps, something terrible might happen. Now, what if the situation comes up where you don't feel safe with the police officer? And that's probably not unusual. Our friend Anthony's going to talk to us a little bit about trying to be calm in those situations, to try to get through it, to go home. And I've been kind of thinking, is it worse to go to jail or worse to go to the hospital? I don't know. But several things can happen. You can be arrested. You can be, what do they call it when they arrest you when they put you on the side of the road for just a few seconds? Detain you. You can be detained while they figure out what's going on. You can go to the hospital. Hopefully you won't be going to a morgue. Are you with me? Yes. Okay. When you're stopped, what are some things you can possibly do between the time you're stopped and the officer gets to you? I think it would be kind of nervous. We'd be a little bit upset. Number one, if possible, get the officer's name or number for 2 reasons. I'll say in a minute. Number 2 is to smile. And people say, smile, I'm not going to smile. There's some research that you can check out for yourself that says if you're smiling, that you seem less threatening. You seem more personable. And anything you can do to take the temperature down just a notch can possibly be in your favor. I say speak first. We get the attorney to hear see what he says. And I say speak first. Again, situation, the officer don't know who you are. If you speak first in a very personable, friendly, smiling way, it would take some of the heat off of them. Are you upset? Are you mad? Are you grumbling? Are you going to be a problem? You may be able to answer some of those things by your words. And I say get the officer's name. So you say Officer John, Officer Joe. Number one, they know who you are. I mean, you know who they are. You got their name. So should something happen, you know who they are. Or try to get their badge number. One thing that I don't know how we could improve upon, but not usually, but sometimes when the officers have something, maybe an officer who was killed, and they do things sort of in honor of person, they'll put a little badge, a little strip over their badge, and you can't read their number. I don't know if that's legal or not, but it happens a whole lot. Maybe you can answer that. So if you can't get their name, try to do that in 30 seconds. As I said, in a few moments, we'll talk about how to calm down during that time. During the stop. I've seen situations where people didn't stop, and police officers get that I am God sometimes attitude. I told you to stop. Show empty hands, then control yourself. And when I say control yourself, control your movements, your speech, and how you speak. And even I know for young black men, it's even where you look. Because sometimes if you look an officer in the eyes, they feel like you're testing them or you're sort of challenging them. And maybe you can speak about that, I don't know. Follow their instructions as much as possible. Your goal is to go home. It's not to show how smart you are. It's not to show how big and bad you are. To me, it's to go home. And do whatever possible to avoid confrontation. Quickly, after the stop, follow up on any legal issues that you have. Then I say write it up. Write the stop up. Not, I got stopped and the police let me go. It's like I got stopped. Where? When? What were you doing? Why did they tell you got stopped? Who was the officer? What did he look like? Was there as much information as possible So, should something happen and you need that, it's right there. It's not something from memory. Does that make sense? Okay, those are some of the things that I've come up with in terms of working towards being safe. The main idea is to do what you can to go home.